Good morning, everyone. My name is Margaret. I'm a parent advisor at Matrix Parent Network. And this morning we're going to have a training on services provided by the Office of Clients' Rights Advocacy. And I'm going to turn it over at this point to Courtney Mangus. She's with the Office of Clients' Rights Advocacy, part of Disability Rights California, and she will introduce herself and let you know what she's going to present today.
Thank you, Margaret, and thank you all for being here. Just give me 1 second to get my notes back up. Oh, man. Sorry, 1 second.
Put it in presentation mode, it usually.
Yeah, did I put it in presentation mode?
I don't know. I can't tell.
Oh, do you not see my screen?
I see your screen, yes.
Okay.
I don't see it, but you were going back and forth with the notes.
Yeah, sorry. All right. So, hello, everyone. Welcome to today's training about what is OCRA. Thank you all for being here. My name is Courtney Mangus, and I am the Client Rights Advocate and Staff Attorney for the Golden Gate Regional Center Consumers. If you have any questions throughout this training, you can add them to the chat, or I think because this group is relatively small, if you just want to like unmute or raise your hand, I think that will be fine. If I sense that we might go over on time because of the questions, I might ask you to hold the questions to the end. We'll have some time for questions at the end as well. So we want to start off by with a quick disclaimer and ask that because this is a public training, that you do not discuss any private or confidential information about anyone that you've worked with or any family members or yourself. There is no right of confidentiality here. We are also mandated reporters and must report when we have a reasonable belief of adult or elderly abuse. This training is not a private consultation for legal advice, and there is no attorney-client privilege. I also want to provide our contact information. So there's my contact information. This is actually, Paul is no longer our assistant client rights advocate. We are looking for a new client rights advocate currently, but this mainline fax and website is all still accurate. You can reach us by emailing me or calling our office if you need any individual advice or information. The Office of Client Rights Advocacy is under the umbrella organization of the DRC, or Disability Rights of California. So the DRC is the agency designated under federal law to protect and advocate for the rights of Californians with disabilities. OCRA, or the Office of Client Rights Advocacy, is a program within the DRC, and it's funded through a contract with the California Department of Developmental Services, or DDS. We are just one of many different groups that are in the DRC. OCRA was created in 1999 for the clients of the 21 regional centers to have an agency that provided advocacy for their troubles with the regional center. So the OCRA is not part of the regional center, and we do not work for Golden Gate Regional Center. Prior to 1999, the regional centers used to be the judge, jury, and executioner, so to speak, and the attorneys for the regional center worked at the regional center and were expected to do the work that we do now. The government realized that they couldn't have their own attorneys acting as a checks and balance on their own agency and decided they needed to contract this work out. And so the DRC won that contract. And ever since then, the OCRA is the one that does the support for regional center consumers. So therefore, we are independent from the regional center, and you can trust that we are not going to share any confidential information with the regional center. And if there's anything in the chat, let me just pull up the chat, just to make sure I can actually see it throughout the training. Okay, so the OCRA advocates for clients with developmental disabilities who currently receive and or those who are seeking to receive regional center services. So if you know someone who's looking to get regional center services and has been denied, or just want help with the process, you can contact our office and we can help with eligibility concerns as well. A client rights advocate, which is what I am, is someone who is trained to advocate on behalf of people with developmental disabilities. We're also called CRAs. So CRAs are not employees of the regional center. Once again, I want to emphasize that. However, we are each assigned to a specific regional center and provide free legal services. So at every regional center, there should be a CRA, which is a client rights advocate, and an ACRA, which is an assistant client rights advocate. The ACRAs also help to manage the office and cases, answer phones, return calls, complete intakes. And what we do as a team is we provide free legal services to regional center consumers, and we try to resolve legal problems related to a consumer's disability. So some things that we do is, provide information, general information. We can review documents and advise you on how to resolve your case on your own. We can help you prepare for an upcoming meeting or hearing. We can assist in preparing documents. We can provide legal trainings like this one. We can represent people with developmental disabilities at administrative hearings, and we can investigate denial of rights. So there are a few different areas of law that we assist with. So we can help with regional center services as defined under the Lanterman Act. The Lanterman Act is the one that establishes all the regional center responsibilities and services and eligibility. So we can help with IPP development, advice for what services are available. We can go to an IPP hearing and advise about self-determination. We can also help with special education, such as IEP development. Sorry, I didn't say what those acronyms stand for. So IPP is Individualized Personalized Plan, and then IEP for special education is Individualized Educational Plan. We can review IEP plans, attend hearings, prepare for a hearing, or help with due process violations. We can also support with Social Security by providing information for eligibility, reviewing notices, communicating with the Social Security office, responding to a notice of action, filing appeals, and going to meetings. We can help with Medi-Cal or healthcare by reviewing notices, answering notices, and sometimes going to hearings. We can support with discrimination, which includes writing letters, requesting reasonable accommodations. That could be for like work or housing. And then ADA accessibility. We also provide alternatives to conservatorships. So we don't advocate for conservatorships, but we provide alternatives such as power of attorney, medical directives, advanced healthcare directives, and then other instruments that are available. We also help with personal autonomy by reviewing denial of rights situation. This is such as when someone is living in a facility or group home and their rights have been denied because their belongings have been taken or communication access has been cut off or something like that. We can also help with community integration, and this includes making sure regional centers are compliant when placing consumers in a facility like a group home, an advanced behavioral support home, or any other facility, ensuring that this is the least restrictive setting. It looks like there was a question in the chat. Are these services offered in all California? Yeah, so DDS is the California group for developmental disabilities services. And DRC is a California-wide organization, and OCRA, the Office of Client Rights Advocacy, is a California-wide organization. So for every regional center in California, there is a client rights advocate and assistant client rights advocate. The Lanterman Act is a federal law, though, so every state has to have a similar situation as like what we have, but each state is responsible to come up with their own model, and this is California's model. So there are different CRAs at every regional center. So I specifically just work for the Golden Gate Regional Center, but if you have a different regional center, there's also a client rights advocate and assistant client rights advocate team to support with these issues. Continuing on, we can also help with IHSS, which is in-home supportive services. This is a public benefit that places help in consumers' home, helping with eligibility, notices, reviewing hours, and then sometimes going to a hearing. We can also help with abuse and neglect. Like I said before, we are mandated reporters of abused and neglected adults. And when we find out that that is happening to someone, we can help with reporting that. If you're looking to get help from OCRA, you would first contact our office through a phone call or an email. When our office is contacted, we obtain all the information necessary to assist with your case or issue during an intake call. So during that call, we'll ask what your problem is. We'll ask questions necessary to determine how we can assist you, and basic information such as addresses, birthdays, etc., to make sure we are documenting the client information correctly. And we usually have to do a conflicts check at that time. So we'll ask you a lot of client information. Then the OCRA can help offer a variety of different help, and that might vary depending on the case. So every case is going to be different, and it's not always going to result in direct representation. So OCRA's focus is to provide the public with the necessary tools to learn how to advocate for themselves. So our support may range from providing information or referrals, such as answering general questions about the law or what the timeline is on a particular issue, to technical assistance that can include writing a letter on your behalf or filing documents, and to investigations of a case, such as when there are allegations of neglect or abuse, all the way to direct representation, which includes attending a hearing and advocating on behalf of a consumer. So how does the CRA directly represent you on a case? So the direct representation means that the CRA will take your case, and you'll know that this is the case because you'll have to sign a paper called a representation agreement that lists what exactly we're going to do, and you'd have to sign it. There was another question in the chat. Can referrals be made by third parties? Yes. So if you are not the client, if you're a support person, someone on someone's support team, for example, and you see an issue, you can contact us. We'll do a couple different things at that time. We'll either give you the information, general information and referrals, or if you think that the client would actually like our direct help, we may reach out to the client directly and ask if they give us permission to support with this case further, and whether or not we can continue speaking with you on that matter. So we can either just give you general information about the law and processes, or we can reach out to the client ourselves and see if they want us to help in a more detailed way. So a CRA decides if they're going to represent your case if it meets the following criteria. So for example, if the case has enough merit or there are enough available resources, and we're going to balance the availability of our resources and whether there are other advocacy avenues available to the consumer. So if there are other, teams on DRC, for example, that provide resources around this issue, or the client already has an attorney, we're going to balance that with what our available resources are. Was every caller a client? No. So this kind of goes back to the last question. So through our contract with DDS, the OCRA only offers their services to regional center consumers. So if you're not a regional center consumer and you're not eligible to be a regional center consumer, we're not going to help with your general disability questions, even if you have questions about yourself. And then if you are a family member or a service provider or a general advocate and not the client yourself, even if this person is a regional center consumer or is eligible to be one, we're only going to be able to provide you with, that general information and referrals. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't contact us, because even if you're not sure whether we can help you, and you know that you're not the client, but you know who the client is, you can still contact us. Like I said before, we can provide that general information, and we can even reach out to the client if it calls for that, to see if they want our help further. A question in the chat was, does your office have Spanish speaking staff to contact clients in their primary language? Yes, we have Spanish speaking staff. We have statewide assistant client rights advocate in a variety of languages that speak of a variety of languages, and they will take on the cases as they come in based on the language, the speaking language of the client or the person calling. We are also like I said, there's a vacancy in our office for the assistant client rights advocate. We are actually looking to hire a bilingual Spanish speaking assistant client rights advocate for this office. But in the meantime, in the interim, we do have support staff who are filling in, and they are bilingual Spanish speakers. If the client is nonverbal and can serve by a parent, will you speak with the parent? So if the client is nonverbal and an adult and can serve by the parent, we're still going to request that the client provide permission for us to continue working with the parent. We have to at least attempt to get that permission. So that might be having an in-person meeting or a Zoom, and then asking the client. If they're nonverbal and they say nothing, we will judge it based on the circumstances of that case. And, if the client doesn't deny our help, then we can continue working with the conserved parent. This is usually the case when there are most conservatorships are partial conservatorships or limited conservatorships. So we will definitely still need to at least ask the client for their permission. If the parent is a full conservator, we'll still try to get the client's permission, but if we don't, then it's not as much of an issue. And then if a client is a minor, then we will speak with the parent. Okay, so the client's expressed interest is the focus of the CRA. And the reason for that is to maintain their advocacy based on their expressed interest. So expressed interests are the interests that the client actually communicates with us. So like I just said in the last question, when there are challenges with communication, we will try our best to establish some avenue for communication, and we'll work to determine what the best interest of the client is based on that situation. But we'll also take into account their family, their circle of support, their care providers, and other people in the consumer's life. Some clients who are nonverbal have other avenues of communication, and we can work with those various, assisted technology, communication devices, or other ways that the client may communicate, even if it's just through like facial expressions or, sounds. The OCRA maintains client confidentiality at all times. OCRA can only share case information if the client gives written and or verbal consent. So we may need to share information when we get permission on the phone or in person in order to get help, with speaking with the regional center or with Social Security or something like that. We'll usually try to get written consent, but in an emergency, we can do verbal consent. So as mentioned before, even if the client's representative made the initial call, OCRA will always represent the best interests of the client, who is the actual the regional center consumer, even if there is a conflict of interest with the wishes of the family member, the service provider, or the advocate. Again, the consumer is the client. And as attorneys, we have to represent the wishes of the client. So what if you have a problem that OCRA cannot assist with? So if the consumer or a caller has an issue that we cannot help with, such as family law or criminal law, or issues not related to the consumer's disability, we can refer to another agency or other attorneys. We can also send along our self-help publications or refer you to our website, which contains a lot of useful information and a lot of publications. We also have some new divisions of DRC, like the Housing Stability Project. We've been getting some requests around, like housing accommodations and issues with housing. And because we have this new department, we've been doing a lot of referrals to that division. You can also check out our resources and publications on our website. Again, this is how you can contact us. We service the GGRC consumers, that's Golden Gate Regional Center consumers, and that covers San Mateo, San Francisco, and Marin counties. If you're a consumer of another region, you can call this Northern California or Southern California line, and that will get you connected to just our main line, and that the representative that answers the phone will be able to connect you with your correct OCRA office based on your regional center. And that's all that I have. Are there any questions?